I know we're going to talk more about fitness inevitably, but a lot of folks are interested in your new diet, the sugar diet. And admittedly, at first, when I saw this starting to trend, I was like, oh, here we go, something. But you've been sharing with me your labs.
Right.
Very impressive. Your triglycerides are really low. Your ApoB to A1 ratio is awesome. We'll talk about labs in another video, but let's talk a little bit more about how you got onto this and what you've noticed so far and what you're learning through the journey.
I've been a big fan of getting information from a lot of people for many, many years, listening to Charles Poliquin back in the day, all the way to Dave Tate, Louis Simmons, and so on. And then more modern day, people like yourself, people like Dr. Sean Baker, hearing about, carnivore and keto from, all kinds of different sources and studying like books like Body Opus from back in the day. And I've been doing this stuff for a really long time, probably the mid 90s when I first started to mess with like a low carb diet, and I was still in high school. And then just like, over the years that kind of morphed and changed, and I ended up doing some carnivore experiments and some carnivore stuff. For me personally, only doing carnivore, only eating meat, didn't necessarily feel like it yielded any extra benefit. Didn't yield any extra benefit in comparison to me having a little bit of starch, in comparison to me having a little bit of vegetable, in comparison to me having like a little bits of fruit here and there and stuff like that. So I then switched to diet, and my brother and I talked about that on Joe Rogan's show many, many years ago about having meat and fruit. And so I already felt that having carbohydrate in the plan somewhere really made a lot of sense. I even wrote a book called The War on Carbs. Yeah. And that's how people know me. And so people get mad. They're like, you wrote a book called The War on Carbs. But in The War on Carbs, I did talk about the usage of carbohydrate and how I personally, this is my own thoughts on this subject, is I think it'd be great for people to really start to reduce the amount of body fat that they have, to really try to figure out how to get in better control of their weight, how to get in better control of their body composition. Once their body composition changes, well, now you can really open up the playbook. Unfortunately, the playbook might have to be super narrow when you are, first starting to lose weight. So anyway, long-winded story of just kind of saying that I've been open to different diets and different ideas and different things over the years, and shifted kind of from one thing to another, all in an effort to try to get better. And I started listening to some stuff from Cole Robinson. It's somebody I've tried dry fasting. I messed around with other types of fasting. Some of those things came from some of his recommendations of his YouTube channel, which is like the Snake Diet. He was the Snake Diet Wizard on Instagram, I think. And I just found it super interesting. He talked about maybe potentially being able to help your insulin sensitivity. And I was like, I've heard this before. I've heard about the rice diet. I heard about Dr. Kepner's work, having people primarily eat rice to get past type 2 diabetes. And as I thought about it more, I was like, oh, wait a second. Maybe, and this is just hypothesis of mine, this is just smelly science, but maybe when you do a carnivore diet, maybe you're kind of hiding away from the potential that you don't have a very good way of regulating glucose in your body. But maybe and this isn't for everybody, but for probably most people, if they explore and they start to feed their body carbohydrate, maybe they can reteach. Because we know you can train just about anything in the body. So can you train your insulin sensitivity? And again, maybe for everybody that's not the same, because maybe someone's liver is shot, maybe somebody has been sick for too many years, and so maybe the sugar diet type stuff, it's possible that it won't work for them. But I think for the majority of people, they probably really can train their carbohydrate metabolism.
And is that contingent upon protein restriction?
So in the case of like the sugar diet and the honey diet, as I dove deeper and deeper and started to learn all these different names and all these different people that are on social media, I came across a guy named Amplified Vitality. He has a really awesome YouTube channel talking a lot about like liver health and the liver dealing with fructose and the liver dealing with cholesterol and all this stuff. And I was like really mesmerized by some of the science that he was sharing. There's another guy named Anabology, and Anabology was talking about mainly just drinking soda, just straight like pop, straight Coke. And he was also talking about like refined sugar as well as just doing the honey diet. And the honey diet is you have honey by day or sugary stuff by day, and even like refined sugars and stuff like that. And then by night you have like a lean source of meat and maybe like a starch. And the reason for that was he was linking that up with some of these studies that they've done, I think, in mice. And there's also some studies in humans as well, where they studied this hormone FGF21. And there's a cascade of a lot of other hormones that happen. Some people feel that FGF21 is a stress hormone. So guys like Mike Fave and some of these other guys out there, they're like, hey, this is not a good button to push, you know. But they'll say if you're going to push this button, they think this is a good way or a decent way of doing it, where you're only doing it through the morning hours. So if you can think about sugar, the sugar diet, sugar fasting, it came from sugar fasting, where you're trying to literally fast just utilizing sugars. And when I say sugars, I'm talking about fruit, honey, maple syrup. Candy can be part of it, which has everybody up in arms. And I understand candy has dyes in it and stuff, so you should not be trying to live off of candy. It's going to be something that is diluting your ability to consume vitamins and minerals and all the essential stuff that we would otherwise get from the fruit. So don't fill yourself up on candy. That's just not a smart move. Don't fill yourself up on soda. It's also not a smart move. But it is kind of refreshing and kind of nice to know, like, oh, during a workout I can have some Gatorade, or even like yesterday when we were working out, we were eating some Sour Patch Kids. It's kind of fun, and it's liberating in some ways to just have some of this freedom with your diet, much like someone on a keto diet being like, oh my God, I get to put butter on something, bam, or I get to have some bacon. That feels super refreshing and tastes amazing to be able to do stuff like that with your nutrition.
Yeah, well, even Sean Baker, he's having milkshakes, right? I mean, these are low carb,
right.
But milkshakes and steak for breakfast. I don't know if he's public about that, but yeah, he was talking to us about that yesterday. So
yeah, having ice cream. Yeah, like
making homemade ice cream. Sorry,
yeah, with
egg yolks,
right, and heavy cream.
Yeah, which that tastes amazing. I mean, I've made homemade ice cream all the time, and it's phenomenal. But okay, so how then?
I'm sorry, and I forgot to actually answer your question about the protein restriction.
Yeah, okay.
So the protein restriction is a key component to this FGF21.
Right.
If this is the thing behind it. So I believe there was one study where they fed this group of people, X amount of calories, and then they needed to give them more calories. And it turned out there was like a 500 to 700 calorie discrepancy, and I think it was represented about 20% of their overall calories. Don't quote me on it. I'm not good with this when we go diving into like trying to recite studies and stuff, but I just know what I know because I'm regurgitating information I heard from a couple other people. And then for me, I like to just go and test it myself and see if it works. And so I played around with it, but ultimately I didn't feel like it was worth it to really like try to stuff myself and engorge myself with thousands of calories of sugar, because at my size, being 210, 215 pounds and being lean, I mean, I really do have to probably eat like 3,000 calories or something like that to do the experiment properly. 3,000 to 4,000 calories, nearly 1,000 grams of carbohydrate, or nearly 1,000 grams of like sugary carbohydrate. And it just doesn't seem smart, doesn't seem safe. I did a few days of it, but I was like, this, even if it works, I don't want to really participate in this side of it. And so I've since changed the diet to now I'm just basically cruising into I still call it the sugar diet because all these carbohydrates are still turning into glucose anyway. And I am choosing to strategically do sugar fasting on particular days, but this is basically turned into like almost like a bodybuilding prep diet where the fats are super low. I brought the protein back up because the protein restriction, while it may induce FGF21 and there might be some other cool things happening, which may technically speed up your metabolism in the short term, I just also want to be able to hold on to muscle. I don't think putting on a little bit of body fat and occasionally losing a little bit of muscle, not the worst thing ever, but it's a real kick in the balls because it makes everything so much harder. We know how easy it is to put on body fat, but we also know how hard you have to work. It takes weeks and months and sometimes years to be able to like hold on to some muscle mass. And so I saw some definition in my legs and stuff starting to diminish, and I'm seeing the scale go down, but I was like, wait a second, like there's some things happening a little bit body composition wise that I don't like. And I noticed on a couple days just being a little smoother, a little flatter. I was like, that's not the same results I was getting in the beginning. So then I just went back, because when I started the sugar diet, I started it with a little bit more starch, and I started it with a little bit more protein. And then I started to starve myself off of protein a little bit by doing 2 days in a row and stuff like that, or doing a full week of a sugar fast. And it was a great experiment. It taught me a lot, and it actually recalibrated my taste buds and recalibrated what I crave, because what I crave the most now is an awesome steak. So like, you know, because you have all these sweet flavors going on in your mouth all day, and your tongue just feels weird. You got to like brush your teeth in the middle of the day and stuff a couple times a day to get that flavor off of you almost. And then this is reported not just by myself, but by a lot of other people, that they're like, man, I'm just dying for a potato. I'm just dying for some steak. And it's like, holy shit, that's powerful. If people are craving that, that's like, all right, well, let's just empower people and say, yeah, go eat that. You know, go for it and have something lean, because really what I think, we both know that you can run off of carbs or you can run off of fats. We both totally understand you can run off of both as well.
Yeah.
Right. But it gets to be a little harder. It's a little trickier. It's nice to have rules. So for me, it's just like carbs all day, as much as I want, any type of carbs that just doesn't have fat in it. And then I'm just going to eat really lean meat. And so the diet just becomes super simple. When I was doing more carnivore and keto, the rules were really easy. It's just like, eat stuff that just doesn't have hardly any carbs in it.